Let me put you on game. Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a f*** what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger and start taking.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. Today we have moved the studio. We're down in Salt Lake City with the one and only, the GOAT, Michael Perry. Michael is running the largest real estate team here in Salt Lake City. He's only been licensed for 4 to 5 years. And so we're coming down. We want to get his story. He's not only doing real estate, he's flipping houses. He's doing a lot of other things. So I'm super excited for you guys to find out a little bit more about Michael, and hopefully you guys can take away a few golden nuggets from this interview. So Michael, let's break into it. Where did you grow up here in Salt Lake, or where'd things start for you?
I guess you can't see it here, but blocks from here. So Sugar House, Utah,
Really?
right outside of Salt Lake City.
Okay. So literally right here down the road.
I could walk to my house.
Okay.
Kind of thing. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. So you grew up here. How was it growing up in Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City's cool. I think I think we all experience, especially if you're, and in the grand scheme, Salt Lake City's still kind of a small city. So it's like, hey, I want to get out. I was one of those people who didn't like Salt Lake City. I left, I went to LA, and then I'm like, man, Salt Lake City's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
It's funny.
I love it.
It's funny that you say Salt Lake City is a little, I mean, we get that in Idaho Falls. Idaho Falls is like 100,000 people. So we get that a lot. It's like everybody wants to come to Salt Lake City or somewhere bigger, but you guys still get that here where they're like, yeah, it's a small area. We want to get out and go to like LA or.
Yeah. And it's funny. And I think it's probably, you deal with it all the time too, especially being heavy in the online lead business. It's like you have people coming from New York, Florida, California. It's like, oh, I'm relocating to something smaller.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I guess.
A smaller area. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what took you to LA? Where were you there?
Football. Yeah. So right out of high school, I went to play football at a junior college in LA. And then I had family in LA. My mom's from Pasadena. So
Okay.
I loved LA. I still do. But yeah, that's what took me there.
Okay. So you played football in high school. Yep. Went to a junior college. How long were you there for?
I was there for a year and a half in LA before coming back to Utah.
Okay. Did you get hurt, or how was your journey through JUCO football?
Yeah, so I was at a JUCO in California, then came back to Utah, and at Snow, I ended up tearing my patellar tendon twice. And I think, probably a lot of people have heard the story by now, but it's like, it's a failure in my mind. But I think looking back, I'm the reason I am because of the lessons in that life.
Yeah. Similar to you, I went, left to a bigger area. Went to Phoenix, played at a JUCO for soccer. First game in, tore my ACL.
Oof.
Recovered, played the second year there, but eventually left. And to me, I look back on it. I've said this before, and it was a failure because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to play soccer. I would go to the LA training camps and all these things, and I'd finish in the top 11 team, and so I thought that's what I was gonna do. But then I realized it was hard, and I look back and I'm like, maybe I gave up too soon, But
Do you think you did?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I still think about it. Like maybe if I had tried for a few more years, but then I go down that rabbit hole and I'm like, well, what would my life look like now?
Totally.
Because maybe I did continue to do it. And maybe I got a little taste of, semi-pros or pros, but at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah,
What is their starting salary? 30, 40,000?
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's like I always give my parents, I was super young for my grade, so I always give my parents crap for not holding me back. And it's like, I might have been really good at sports if I was held back, because I was super short till basically freshman in college. But it's like, it's all learning lessons. Like, I would have gone through a lot less pain, but it's like today we wouldn't be here. I don't know what I'd be doing.
Yeah. You can only connect the dots looking back.
Totally.
So it's now you can see like, oh, this led to this led to this, and now I'm here. But it's like, what if I chose a different route? Like, what would the life look? And I play around with that. At the end of the day, I don't regret any of the decisions I made. I'm excited and happy with where I'm at. And now in real estate, I'm sure you're very similar. It's like, I don't know what else I'd rather be doing.
Totally.
Yeah, I think
100%.
Even if I did soccer and I saw this, I'd probably at some point get into real estate, and that would be my thing that I'd want to do. So after going to college, coming back to Utah, playing and then tearing your
patellar
tendon. Where did things go from there?
So I tore my patellar tendon once, and then kind of same thing, rehabbed it, went through spring practice, and then last day of spring tore it again. So I got my real estate license 18 days or 31 days later. I think I signed up 18 days after. And that's kind of a crazy story because I was coming back to school in August to play football, had the summer off, but it was like, talk about life change 180.
Yeah.
That's one of those like fork in the road moments.
Yeah. Why'd you get your real estate license? Like,
I think I was lost. It's like I had friends. One was playing soccer at a super high level, and then I had friends playing football at a super high level. And I'm like, that obviously isn't going to be me. It's like I'm at a junior college, year 3, my knee's torn twice. I got to do something.
Yeah.
And I was a terrible student. I had no desire to go back to school. So my dad was in real estate. I was like, hey, I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah. How was your dad so far in his career in real estate? Was he just an individual agent at the time?
He was, individual agent, I think 8 or 9 years.
Okay, cool. Pretty successful thus far?
Yeah. It's really cool because I think he probably transacted 20 to 25 deals. I think there was no vision for a team. It was just a solo agent. And then I basically got my real estate license. I was with my friend. I was a solo agent in a sense, or I absolutely was a solo agent. It was a partnership with my friend, but there was no vision for what we have here today.
So how did the Perry Group come about? What was that journey like?
I think it's one of the coolest things is whether you're a real estate agent or you're investing in real estate, I think it just brings opportunity. Yeah. And so for us, it was, okay, let's buy a Zillow lead. We spent $750 or $1,500. I get that number mixed up. And we split it, 3 of us. And it was like, I had $23 in my bank account and had to come up with $500 to put in my chip
every month.
Yeah. And this is a terrible, horrible, stressful life. But it was like, we got that Zillow lead.
Yeah.
And I thought I was Bill Gates for a second. Like I thought I figured out the real estate world. So it was just, let's add another agent because I think this model works. And then it was like, hey, we have 5 agents and this works incredibly. How many people can we help?
Can we scale it?
So 81 of us
right
today,
now. Wow. Year one with the Perry Group. How was that? Where'd you guys, if you can think back, how many agents did you have? What was production like year one?
I don't know production year one, but I think the story I can give, we had, I think probably 7 agents total. Okay. And what's really interesting, the 7 of us who were there today were all doing really big things. There's nobody left on the Perry Group besides me and my dad.
Of that original 7?
Yes.
Wow.
But that 7 is doing big things in the real estate world. So that's really cool to look back and watch. But I think the coolest story, I don't know, we probably have 50, 60, 70 million under contract right now.
Wow.
But the coolest moment and like the moment that like gets me going still, like not emotional, but it's like the heebie-jeebies, is we had a whiteboard with like 8 or 9 transactions. It was like, we live to put another deal on that whiteboard kind of thing.
That's crazy. And so last year, let's go to year 2. Year 2, where'd you guys go from 7 agents? Where'd you guys go to year 2? Like, how'd you guys scale?
I think year 2 was 7 to about 15 agents.
Okay.
So it was definitely
doubling it.
Yeah, it was doubling, but it felt slower. And then I think year 2 is I think where I got my feet production wise. Where I was like, I'm actually really good at real estate. Year 3 was, hey, I'm good at real estate. I think we can figure this team thing out.
Yeah.
Let's go do it at a higher level.
Okay. So year 3, what did year 3 look like agent count wise?
30.
30.
Yep.
Okay.
Year 4 was, sorry, I'm skipping. You keep asking me questions. I'm skipping it. So year 3, 30 agents, most brutal year.
Okay.
I mean, that year was terrible as far as trying to figure things out. Cause 30 agents, I look back, it's not that big. It's not that many agents, but when you have 10, 15 agents, you can get away with not a ton of systems.
Yeah.
When you have 30, it's like, I have 30 people in this office.
Yeah.
And I have no direction. For like literally no direction. I don't have director of operations, The direction we had was if your phone rings, you better answer it.
Take the lead.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's like me and you were talking right before this. It's without direction, your personal life just becomes a disaster because people rely on you.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'm at a team of 12 and I can imagine 30 is not a big number, but me looking at 30 is daunting.
Yeah.
It's like, that feels like a lot of people. And the way you guys were like Wild West with it, you know, it's inspiring and it's nerve wracking at the same time. Like, you know, I think you guys, it's inspiring because you just did it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people overanalyze it and like, how do I get to 30? And I think sometimes I do struggle with that where you guys are like, let's just bring people on and answer the phone and we'll figure this thing out.
Yeah. I think it's fun because now I would say I really understand business. I understand how to operate business. And in any business venture I go into now that's new, I analyze. And I'm running analytics. I'm having a team do X, Y, and Z. But sometimes like I have to look back, especially with like flips.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to figure it out. And I think we just have to throw ourselves into the fire. But it's hard.
To mold yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of the lessons you probably learned at the 30s or at the 30 agent count, you know, Wild West style. A lot of fires came at you that you had to put out and you're like, okay, we need something for this.
Yes.
That you wouldn't have known you needed unless that had come at you. So I think there's a lot of lessons in just going after it and then figuring it out. It's like, you know, some people say jump and then build your parachute on the way down kind of thing. And I feel like that's kind of your guys' story. So year 4, how did year 4 look for you?
Year 4 was 2020, I think. Yeah. Year 4 is the beginning of the pandemic. So for us, it was really scary. It was the first time we felt we had things figured out from a brokerage standpoint, from a team standpoint, from staff, Zillow leads, everything. And then the pandemic happened. And so for us, it turned out amazing, but that was a year of, I mean, we were weeks away of saying like, we spent 4 years for it to burn in ashes kind of thing. Cause like we thought we were all dying.
Yeah.
So year 4 turned out really good. It was probably our biggest growth year.
Yeah.
We went from 30 to 80.
Wow.
And talk about fires. I mean, that was we still talk about it all the time. It was like, we felt for like a year and a half, we were a week away from heaven or hell in like the real estate world. Like it was going to go great or it was going terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. But year 4, like, and then year 5 was, so you're in year 6 right now or
Yep.
Okay.
5.5.
5.5. Okay. So year 5 is, I feel like you guys have got a lot of your stuff in place now. Like you're running at a high level. You've got 81 agents. What I've noticed after like talking, I mean, I've only done say 6 or 7 podcasts so far.
Yeah. Different
industries. It's year 4 and 5 that everybody kind of hits that. It's like you hit the exponential growth curve right there.
Totally.
A lot of, you know, what's it called? The habit book. I forgot. Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
He talks about, you know, like the valley of despair or whatever. A lot of people give up in that valley because it's hard. But once you get through that valley and you start hitting that exponential growth curve, it's like things fall into place. You had a massive year just this last year.
Yeah.
What'd you guys end up doing transaction wise in 2022?
So we did, I don't know, 472 million, I think, and 802 deals. 802 is right. The 470 might be butchered a little bit, but it's close.
Personal production wise, what'd you hit?
38 million. It was a fun year.
Wow. That's insane. And then this isn't all you're doing either right now. You also, how many homes did you flip last year?
6.
6 homes.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Okay.
That we got in and out of.
And I want to talk a little bit about your flipping business that you got going on. Because he's not just flipping homes like a normal person's flipping homes. When he talked to Michael, he's like, I bought a house for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 and I'm going to flip it. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to flip a $700,000 house? Or you've even purchased $1 million home to flip.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the flipping world? Like what triggered that inspiration?
Yeah, it's weird. I think in real estate you can, and this is going to backtrack a little bit. I think there's 2 types of people in real estate.
Yeah.
Is one who's super passionate about people and transactions and get them into their house, or it's like the numbers, the design piece. And for me, I love the numbers, but for some reason I love design.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. And so my real estate agent career has kind of been helping flippers or investors. And I just got to the point where it's like, why am I not going to do this? My wife she wasn't doing design at the point, but loves design. I love design. Her dad's an architect.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So we have a team. In the beginning, we would do it with my brother. My brother knew a lot about construction. So it was like, hey, let's buy a house and see where it goes. The first one, thank goodness it was in an up market,
Yeah.
but I thought it was going to take 3 months, and it took us, or actually, no, the first house we bought was our personal house we live in. We thought it was going to take 5 or 6 months. We had architectural plans for an addition. I was paying a monthly payment for 24 months before we moved in.
Wow.
So it's not for everybody.
Nothing. And that's what we've only done one flip thus far. Nothing goes like you plan.
Nothing.
No P&L or performs like you think it's going to perform.
Yeah.
So you got to have those rooms for margin, but you also just got to keep chugging along. And like those lessons you learn on that first one, obviously into your next 5, you probably took a lot of things away from that you implemented to avoid on the next few. And I know you've in a down market, you guys have still made your flips profitable. What sets you guys apart than other flippers?
I think everything's design and everything is high end, and how do I hate the mantra or the Instagram-y like, oh, think like how money thinks or live with luxury kind of thing. But I do think what's really important is we were extremely realistic with what, for us, we wanted to go after margins, and margins is luxury in Salt Lake City. But where I think people get it wrong is everything's per square foot. It's like in my world, nothing's per square foot. It's like this house sold for 1.5 million and it had X, Y, and Z in it.
Yeah.
Could care less about per square foot because it doesn't really matter in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Because it's such a wide variety. But I think a cool story, I think we were on flip 7 or 8. It was the $2.5 million house we flipped. It was October, which, if you look back, was the worst month in real estate. And my wife and I, it's like almost teary-eyed. We're sitting on the couch. It's like, this is the first house we've listed in a down market.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out if we're good at this or it's like the market was good.
Yeah.
And we turned out we're good at this.
Yeah. You guys sold that in what?
6 days.
That's insane.
Yeah.
In one of the slowest times of the year.
Brutal.
And probably one of the slowest times we've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years. You come to market with a $2.5 million home that you flipped. I can't imagine. I remember talking to you right before you had that finished and ready, and I could see and feel the stress that you were under.
Yeah.
But as soon as you posted that you had sold it, I couldn't imagine that feeling that you guys had.
Yeah. And I still have the feeling. It was like, because you know how it is. I mean, everything is pessimistic until the deal's done.
Yep.
Because you do enough transactions, it's like you've seen some bad things happen. But I think what was so cool for us, it was we listed the house, and obviously things happened during the contract and everything. But I was one of those listing agents who like showed up to the house because I was like, hey, I want to see what people's feedback is.
Yeah.
And within 24 hours, I showed 2 Utah Jazz players.
Wow.
I'm like, we did something right.
That's insane.
If I've showed 1 Jazz player in my 6-year career, and I just listed a house where 2 have come.
Wow.
We did it, kind of thing. So that was cool.
That's insane, dude. And I guess funneling, just looking back, it's like that's a great way to funnel business into your real estate team and into you, build up your clientele. If you're flipping these high-end homes, getting the listings on these, it's a great way to kind of break into that whole luxury market. Yeah,
and I think it just builds trust, and that's why, I mean, I don't mess around in more than 3 or 4 zip codes, and that's not realistic for a lot of markets, but there's enough homes to be flipped in these certain zip codes to where I want people to know who Michael is. I want people to know who Dom is and everything she does, because it's just the next time we list a $2.5 million house or $3 million, it's not, hey, it's another flip. It's, hey, Dom's done another crazy project. Let's go see it.
Yeah, well, you guys inspire. I mean, I look at this stuff and I'm like, man, hey, Michael, if I find you a house in Arizona, do you want to flip it? Like, it's
right. I mean, we text about that all the
time. You get the quality of work that you guys do is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And it's not your typical like, okay, we flipped a house and we changed the paint colors and we updated things and made fixtures look nice. But you guys are like, we're moving the kitchen and we're going to put a bathroom in here. And I'm like, the actual design work and thought that goes into your guys' flips is next level. It's not like your standard flip, which I think is going to help you guys really differentiate yourself and create a name. I would like to see you guys build a house from the ground up. I think that would be incredible. Is that on the docket at all?
We go back and forth.
Yeah.
So I think it's an architect's dream.
Yeah.
So obviously my father-in-law to build ground up because you can do whatever you want. And then my wife, Dom, it's, I think it's all of our dreams. But what has been interesting is what we've realized is we're really good at solving problems to where there's very few people who have that eye. Yeah. And that's not like a brag. It's just for some reason we can walk into a house and we can move a kitchen, we can move bathrooms, we can add bathrooms, and it's not hard for us.
Yeah.
To where it's we look at ourselves like custom builders, I would say, when we're flipping a house. It's
sure.
We got to match that product. And I get scared with shiny object syndrome because, of course, I want to build. And it's like the margins with building are crazy. Like I have one of our business partners. She just bought a lot for 1.3 million. She's going to build ground up for probably 2.5 to 3 million and very well could sell it for 9 million. So we're talking margins, but I'm like, number one, I don't have that pocketbook yet.
Yeah.
Number two, stay in your lane. It's like some of the best advice I've ever gotten.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you're really good at. And understanding that what you guys have, it's like any builder can build high end from the ground up. But you're right. You guys have a unique ability to walk into a home that's priced at $900,000 and be like, the layout sucks. We can make this look way better.
Totally.
And double what it's worth. That's
and I think all the markets compare. And I even think like in Idaho, in Salt Lake, and then Beverly Hills, there's similarities with everything. And I think what's really interesting, what we realized in LA, and this is just kind of where it's like, hey, swallow your pride and just think about things. In LA, you have spec homes that sell for 40, 50, 60 million. There's been one that sold for 100 million kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's been a couple dozen sell for over 100 million that are original houses that have been updated.
Yeah.
So there's a massive need and you can't necessarily put pen to paper on it.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like, let's not go do the modern spec build.
Yeah.
Let's go, what do people in Salt Lake want? And I think we found it.
Yeah. They want the area that you're in.
Yep.
That's, that zip code. You guys talk a lot about that. And it doesn't work in every market. Obviously, like I can't focus on one zip code in my market because there's not enough volume in that zip code. But your guys' ability to like zone in on understanding that location is key.
Yes.
Like people buy location. And then if you can give them what they want inside of that location, where they have the mature neighborhood, mature landscaping, and you're giving them the Pinterest-worthy house that they want. Yeah. It's like that in itself, there's something really special about that. Ground-up builders can't go build. I mean, they could, but they're knocking down a house and, ground-up stuff. And that's hard margins there. They're building on new lots in new areas. And then you got to wait for that area to appreciate. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a new area. There's no landscaping there. I think what you guys are doing really cool. And I want to do something, eventually I'm going to get you to do something in Scottsdale with me.
I think we're going to do it together.
I think Scottsdale would be, I think there's a big opportunity there as well. Because people are flipping homes there, but they're very standard.
Oh my goodness.
You probably looked when you were there for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. My wife and I, we went and looked at a couple of houses. We've been on Zillow every day since. It's like, this sounds like a brag. But I'm like, this city needs us. The city needs designers. Kind of like this city needs some help.
It does.
Kind of thing.
I look at some of the stuff there, and even the newer homes. Like we're looking at stuff that's been flipped. It's at 1.2. The quality, the quality is just not there. And I'm like, I struggle with that. In Bree's gung ho, she wants a house there so bad.
Yeah. It's funny. I filmed a whole 60-second video on Instagram, just blasting Arizona.
You didn't post it.
Well, yeah, because I was like, is it really that smart for me to tell basically everyone on Instagram how ugly their house is in Arizona? I was like, I probably shouldn't do that.
I think it is. I think you should post it because I think it is good because I think there's a lot of people that have that same mentality.
Yeah.
But nobody's changing it. because they don't have to. I mean, they're making a ton of money on just doing the crap. I think if somebody goes in and disrupts that and shows what quality is,
Yeah.
people are going to struggle even more to pay the prices that they're paying for what they're getting.
Totally.
You know, imagine somebody walking through your flip here for $2.5 million, and then walking through a flip over there that's $2.5 million. Like, okay, this isn't even close.
Yeah.
And they're comparable markets. I feel like
Totally.
you guys have appreciated up to that point. But I feel like Phoenix is kind of like on the cusp of being a Beverly Hills
Yes.
in certain areas, because you're seeing a lot of like $10 million plus homes getting built and bought. So I think it's a great area for appreciation. But
yeah, I think, and I think just a little tip I'll give is what we are struggling with in Arizona is inventory levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so without going into too much detail, like we super focus on, and this is a lesson I just learned 6 months ago. And so I didn't know this years ago, but when doing flips now, because the market turned a much more cautious. So I go back all the way to 08 and I look at inventory levels.
Yep.
And we're only buying houses to where that neighborhood always has historically low inventory.
got it.
And so we bought a house in an area that had extremely low inventory during the pandemic, but I failed to look at pre-pandemic, post-pandemic inventory levels.
Yep.
It wasn't a low inventory level, and we struggled. So relaying that to Arizona, we're just going in a circle. Like,
Yeah.
where's the Beverly Hills, or where's like the sugar house to where it's like, it's that buyer, it's tucked.
People want that, you know, no matter what kind of market it's in.
Yes.
Because you look at like Beverly Hills, and I think the stat is it's appreciated like 8% or 10% a year over the last 50 years.
Yeah. Forever.
Yeah. So it's like people lose money on purchasing property there, like rentals. They'll
Yep.
lose money cash flow wise because they're just banking on appreciation.
Yes.
And I think you're kind of dealing with some of that here in Salt Lake. Your market's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I want
it's a terrible. We're not a cash flow market, and so that's been interesting trying to figure out.
and that we're so far behind you guys. But I want to talk to you about the market, get your perspective. Obviously doing 800 or something transactions as a team. You guys see a lot of transactions. You guys are in the market. You're a big presence in the market. What's your take on the market? We've had conversations about this before, and we've both gone back and forth. Where do you think this year is going to end up? What do you think is going to happen this year?
I don't know. I thought I was a wizard 10 days ago, and I was really what I care about. I care about interest rates, but the number I really care about is inventory levels. And so we're dropping inventory steady. A week ago, if you would have asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I would have said we're looking for a really hot 2023. I can tell you from the Perry Group, which I think we have a cheat code on what's happening with the market, we're transacting at a high level.
Yeah.
But interest rates just went up.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I think you're going to see you just have to be really careful as a buyer. I don't think we're going to be a bad market.
Yeah.
But if you get caught in that lapse of like, hey, I'm buying at a high price and 7% interest rate, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah. And that's the only thing we've started to see it even locally. And I'm sure you guys have seen it, like people that have bought, now we're probably saying like a year ago, you know, kind of at peak levels, that maybe they're selling and they're getting out like just to break even kind of thing. You know, some people where it's close, you might owe a little bit after commissions and everything. I think there's that little gap where you're not going to do okay. The majority of Americans still have a ton of equity in their homes.
Yes.
And so I think there's a gap of people that have bought in the last year or so that are kind of more nervous. I think like rates, if they continue to go up, obviously going to put a little bit more downward pressure on the market.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right though, because the kicker is inventory.
Yeah.
Like that is our saving grace.
Totally.
Our market, if we had proper inventory levels, our market would be crushed.
It'd be tough.
It'd be toast.
Yeah.
It's the dynamic of inventory, and that there is always going to be an amount of people that are transacting regardless of the market. So if inventories are low enough that those people transact and there's not a surplus of choices for them, then the market will stay stable. And I think the counterpart is like, I don't see any kind of massive appreciation that's going to happen. So if you're a seller, like your post the other day, like if you're a seller, I'd look to get out if you want to get out in the next few years.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to miss out on any appreciation coming up, because if the Fed sees appreciation, what are they going to do? They're just going to crank up. That's the last thing they want.
What's that guy's name? It's killing my real estate vibe.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to think of his name. Powell.
Yep. Yeah.
Uncle Powell.
Uncle Powell. But yeah, I mean, it goes to what you said. I think it's a really weird dynamic, because it's the first time I think we've ever seen in history to where you said people will always be transacting. So people have to transact. But I think the part in addition to that, and where you said saving grace, is we've never seen ever to where people don't have to transact.
Yeah.
And if you have a high 2% or a low 3%,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people in a lot of economists think those people might not ever transact on that interest rate.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And so that's a really weird, I'm like, thank God for that, because I think we'd be 08.
Yeah.
If that didn't happen. But I'm helping a friend. He's there. Him and his fiance, they're both in commercial real estate. They're transacting. So they're buying a new super pretty house, but they have a 2.8 on their townhome. That townhome will never be sold. I don't care how much equity it has.
Yeah. Because the cash flow, you can never, and that's the thing, is if people have to sell, and even if you did buy at the peak, but you have a good interest rate, it's educating them on, let's figure out how to hold this.
Yes.
Do you understand that if we can get a signed lease, we can use that as your income, we'll offset that whole thing to your DTI, and we can get you approved for another house.
Yeah.
Understanding that you don't have to sell.
Yeah.
Because never in history are you going to buy a rental property for a 2.5 rate.
No.
That will never happen.
And it's funny how I think we all downplayed interest rate too.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I, we looked in Arizona, and I think I always kept in the back of my head, I'd rather transact in a market where I can get a steal at a higher interest rate. And I look back and I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah.
Especially on a second home. I would have rather just had that low payment, be down $100,000 in equity on certain houses that we're not transacting anytime soon. But I look at monthly payments. It's like, you got to feel bad for people.
Yeah.
It's pricey right now.
Oh, it's so bad. I've got buddies that bought, a ton of rental properties in the last 2-3 years. And one could look at it like, oh, they bought it like high prices and they're down equity wise. It's like, they have no plan of selling those. They made off like bandits.
Yes.
If you got like a 20 unit complex at a 3% interest rate, why would you ever sell that? You're going to hold it for 10 years and it's going to appreciate over time. We know that. And so it's looking back, I'm like, man, I really missed the boat. I should have bought everything I could at 3.5 interest rates.
Totally. Because the deals were still there. I mean, especially for someone like you and me, you come across deals that not everybody sees, but I get so bipolar with the market to where I'm finally like, okay, I'm going to stop being bipolar. The market is what it is.
Yep.
Just whether we're in a super high interest rate or the world's falling low interest rate, I'm just going to buy a house solely based off the deal.
Yeah. Based off the deal and based off your circumstances.
Totally.
If you plan to be here for 5-10 years, it really, what the current market's doing.
You talking about Idaho or what? Don't answer that.
What? I want to do you have any rental properties? That's something I've never asked you.
Yeah, we have 2 and I hate them.
Okay. Why? Not your game you want to play?
No, not the game I want to play. And I think I have friends who try and make me have shiny silver object syndrome. But there's not a ton of people who can go make what we're making on flips.
Yeah.
And so when I hear, this is terrible advice for most people, but I'm just giving you a candid answer.
Yeah.
When I can flip a house and buy it $700, flip it for $1.3, $1.5, or I can buy a $500,000 house and make $300 a month, I'm going to go sell more houses.
Yeah.
I'm not. So
I get that. No, I think it's a good, once you have enough money, it's a good place to just park it. For you to do, especially if you're hands off. For you, it is something that you should not be dealing with. You should not be managing any rental properties or even having that headache.
Yep.
But it could be a resource that you just, write a check for every once in a while and buy another property. And, in 10 years, 20 years, you'll have a ton and it won't even matter. But what do you like over this growth that you've seen over the last 5-6 years in the real estate industry, you know, from building a team, flipping houses, doing all the things that you're doing? What are the main lessons that you've kind of learned?
That's a really good question. I think the best lesson I've learned and the advice I'll give is nothing replaces hard work. And I think there's also, you talk to some super successful people, it's never as easy as it looks. And I think when you're building something, you see the big groups or the capital companies or the tech companies, it's like, wow, that was easy.
Yeah.
And they made so much money and they love life. And you talk to those people, it's like, I enjoy life, but it's not what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so I think just sticking through that process. And then I think the other lesson, you just get rewarded for being a good person.
Yep.
I think business will come back tenfold. If you can help people, it will come back, and just stay patient. I mean, you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I want to move to Arizona and never do anything real estate again. And today I'm pretty happy. So.
Yeah. I go back and forth on that stuff. And I think what you said about like, you got to just be patient. So many people are, they want what you have today. Like, I just want to build a team like Michael this year.
Totally.
It's like, it's going to take you 5.5 years, 6 years, probably more, because Michael built it really fast.
Yeah. And don't be ignorant. We got lucky.
Yeah.
If the market turned on us,
yeah,
I don't think we'd be bankrupt. We'd figure it out. But it's exactly like you said. Like, our scenarios got lucky, but we were super patient.
Yeah. Think in a decade. Like, that's kind of the new the motto I've been thinking about, is like, the decisions I make and the things that I'm doing, I'm hoping they pay off in a decade.
Yeah.
You know, and a decade's going to go by quick.
Totally.
I'm like, I've already been in real estate
scary.
5 years too. And I'm like, oh, we're already halfway to a decade. Okay. This is going faster than I thought. I super appreciate you kind of sharing, you know, what you've learned. Is there any last bits you want to share with the audience, kind of words of encouragement or advice, anybody that's looking to get into real estate or even looking to build their team? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yes, there are a ton of things I would do differently. I think the biggest piece of advice, to my younger self, biggest piece of advice I would give to me is really care about people, but protect your emotion.
Yeah.
And protect what's happening in your life. Because I think,
explain that a little bit.
I think just from a human perspective, because I think I went through a lot of turmoil trying to please people. And then I think just a habit of being a people pleaser, you end up not screwing a lot of people. But I think by not giving them, hey, honest truth, this is what's happening. Number one, you lose them. Number two, it will torture you. Yeah. So I think just being loving people, but being crystal clear on the mission and what you're building is what will pay off in the end. And I think your life will be easier for that.
Interesting. I love that. I think I needed that more than anything.
I love you.
So cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing with us, Michael. I know, you know, we're probably gonna have to get back here for another episode, because there's so many things that I do want to dive into you, but I wanted to get your broad story first to share with the listeners, because I think there's a lot of people out here that could benefit from your story and what you've built. And how old are you?
26.
26. This guy's a savage.
My contractor, one of my contractors is 21, and that was weird for me.
Really?
Yeah, because
you've always been
we've always been the young guy or young team.
Yeah.
And I meet a 21-year-old who's doing work on my house. I'm like, I'm old.
Yeah. Like, oh, the roles have flipped.
Yeah.
Did I get it? Because I got into real estate when I was 22. 21 or 22. I got licensed when I was 21. And I felt young, and I still feel that sometimes. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh wait, I am 26. Yeah, I'm getting kind of older. I'm getting closer to 30.
Isn't it weird though? Ranger. And I know we're dragging this on, but there's sometimes good. I'll walk into a room where I'm like, I'm young.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go through daily life, and it's like, I feel I'm 45 right now.
100%.
If you call it a day, I'm good.
Yeah. You get home after a long day at 8 and you're like, I could go to sleep right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I feel that. And I want to thank you. It was super refreshing when you posted that video the other day before you left to the Super Bowl with all the crap in your car.
Yeah.
And that you were driving around. It just helped me realize that you are human.
Yeah. Life's not glamorous. It's not.
I was like, man, I'm done flipping houses. I'm done running to Home Depot. Michael Perry doesn't deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Perry does deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
This is actually really cool. I've never told this. So that big flip we just did where we made a ton of money on it. I was there at 6 a.m. 5 days a week, checking in on it.
What were the numbers on that? What did you buy it for?
We bought it at 9. We put 450 in, and then we sold it at 2 for 4.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
You were there every day.
Every day. And that was, I would not do it again.
Yeah.
And so that was a hellish experience for me, our relationship, to where it's like you see when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Because if that didn't go wrong, like you see where things go bad. And so we got out, would never do that again. But what's so hard about that is that taught me everything. So I will do it again.
Yeah.
And I'll do it better.
Yeah.
So I don't have advice or regrets, but life's not easy.
No, and a lot of people are going to look at that. They're going to look at the numbers and say, "Wow, that's crazy. Like, I want to do that." But straight from the source, it's like he's like, I wouldn't want anybody to do that because of the amount of stress it put on you, your relationship. There's so many people that are like, I want to build a team. They don't understand what kind of stress that put on you as a person, what kind of stress that put on your relationship, what is your life, work-life balance going to look like? It's like, talk to people. Like, come talk to Michael. Talk to me if you're thinking about doing these things, because it's like, we're going to be honest with you and understand, not to scare you away of doing them, but to be honest, because I wish somebody would have told me, like, hey, running a team is going to be like this. Yeah. And then I would have been able to put a little bit more thought into it. Like, is that what I want to do? I think I'd still do it, but you learn a lot of lessons.
And like you said, I mean, I was a different person for a year.
Yeah.
I wasn't say I was cold, but I was almost like emotionless. I was like, look, I don't have time or the capacity. Like, I am so stressed. I can't do with anything else. And now it's like, I'm happy. Kind of thing. So
it's all on fire, but I'm happy. Yeah. So no, I love that. Cool. Well, that is a wrap. We're going to break off here. Me and Michael are going to go talk business. But thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. If you guys want to have Michael back on the podcast and dive a little bit deeper into any of his avenues of business, leave a comment and we'll get him out there. Next time
so I feel good.
Yeah, comment. Make sure you like his hair. His hair is phenomenal. Next time we're getting him out to Idaho. We'll wait for warmer weather and get you out there.
Thank you.
So appreciate it, buddy.
You, man.
Okay.
Don't listen to people who lose or you'll do the same. Stop talking to people who don't give a what you saying. Stop spending your money on weed, go hop on a plane. Stop pointing the finger and start taking some of the blame. Let me put you on game. Control your emotions, most of the time it's really not worth it. Don't be ashamed and beat yourself up for not being perfect.